All right, so we're having to re-record part of this because I messed up the audio, and Joseph has been kind enough to come back. Um,
Absolutely.
so we'll do a little film breakdown, Joe, and I'm going to add this here. Now, this is the 2008 Georgia game. Now, you are at left guard right here. Walk us through pre-snap what's going through your head, Joe.
All right. Well, real quick to give you a little background, this is the first play from scrimmage in the second half of the game. We just got the ball back, and the play call is a it's an option right, and I'm going to pull around, and my assignment is to get upfield and cut the far side defensive end there.
Okay,
Uh,
right here.
Got right up there at the top of the screen, which it doesn't work out quite how you draw it up, but I called an audible here, and it did end up working out. So let's see. So
I tell
right
you,
here,
go ahead.
well, so right here, this defensive end has me dead to rights. Like in in the option offense, sometimes they'll just give you an assignment and say, figure it out. And the assignment here is I should get around him and cut his boundary side leg. But that's an athletic defensive end who's already outside of me, and he ain't gonna let me do that. So because that's not going to work out, I had a split second to decide. Well, I'm either going to throw at him, and maybe I can distract him enough for the play to get off, or I can go high and see if I can drive him a little bit and tie him up that way. And that's what I went with. And you can see here.
All
I lock
right,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the reason they want you to cut on this play is I'm not in a great position to make a reach block here, but
No, you're on his inside.
I'm on his inside. But I knew that man was looking for me to cut. He was not expecting to be engaged up top. So I knew I can lock him up, and if I can get my hands inside on him and drive him for about a second and a half, that's all Dwyer's going to need to be able to hit the corner and get outside. So the name of the game here is make the block just good enough and let it go before a holding call could be tossed out. And every so often it
And you
every
got
so
just
often it works
enough
out.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my boy Nick.
And of course Dwyer does Dwyer things and makes it looks like two guys miss.
Being a beast. And then my buddy Nick, who's playing left tackle, he comes all the way cross field. He's got what's called the home run block, because the only way the backside tackles block is going to matter is if everyone else does their job.
You talking about
And he,
75?
75 coming all the way across field. So you'll see he comes up. And
Oh yeah.
whoop.
Man.
Those are fun blocks.
Oh, and he slides too. He knocks this guy's legs out from under him.
Oh yeah. First thing to make contact with the ground is that man's hand. He's about to go, as he is he's perpendicular with the or he's parallel with the ground.
Man, so I mean, and this is one of the more kind of famous plays in recent history. You're right. We come out of half and hit this, and Joe hits the pivotal block here. Look how quick he gets off. Boom. I mean, because you're already really in front of Dwyer. Like, you beat Dwyer out here.
Yep, and that's the thing on pulling, because we had 3-foot splits back in the day, so it's extra far to get all the way across. So you've got to be blowing and going for those pull plays, and as you can see here, even when you're doing everything you can to get right, sometimes you just gotta improvise and make it work. And luckily, that's how it worked on this. And I also want to highlight, we got Austin Barrick up here at the top, number 73, making a hell of a block on Rennie Curran, who was a beast of an outside linebacker for Georgia. So we had several things all came together and just made this place sing.
He got off quick too. I mean, he's on Curran before Curran even can see what's going on.
Yep, and that well, good reason for that. He was a tight end out of high school. He came to Tech to be a receiving tight end, and he was one of those that got transferred into tackle when Johnson came in, and because of that, yeah, man, he was quick as a cat. Fella knew how to move like a tight end in the tackle position, and a lot of that is what Johnson wanted.
Yeah. Now, he might get away with one there, but yeah, we'll just let the play out.
And you'll notice here something else I learned early on in my career is whenever there's a long touchdown like that, no matter how tired you are, you be the first to run down there and celebrate because that looks better for the camera.
Yeah, you want to. Here's the thing. Yeah, you hit this great block, and I'm gonna turn the sound off. The camera follows Dwyer here. Obviously, he's got the. Now, hey, you are booking it though. Hold on, you're booking it to catch. Look at this is Joe here. He's like, it's gonna be a touchdown here, and you're like, oh man, I got to get up.
Got to make it down there for the ESPN highlight.
Do you get in frame?
Yep, here we go, and there we go.
Oh man, you there he is. That's awesome.
Yep. That's why you're running the sprints for right there.
Yes, that's why you ran sprints after practice, right?
Yeah, yeah, to prepare me for all those long touchdowns. I'd have to run after Dwyer.
And there was a lot of them. All right, we'll pull up the next play. So this is 2009 against Wake Forest. Set us up for this one.
All right. So the situation in this one, it's late in the game versus Wake. Wake's got a small lead on us, and this is overtime. So we're looking to come back and take the lead here. I believe this is the first play, and I am also going to be pulling around, but this time I'm pulling for play side linebacker who's lined up about 6 yards or about 5 yards deep off of the right guard. So ideally, like I've come up and Bedford's called out the front, and I'm trying to like catch a peek at him before I go to find out his positioning. But at the same time, whenever you're pulling, you got to be a little nonchalant about it. You don't want that far linebacker or tackle to see you staring him down. So I've figured out his position, and yeah, we're gonna see how this one turns out.
That's a good point too. Like you got to figure out your role, but you can't like just look at the far side backer and be like, "Hey, idiot, I'm gonna come block you." Prepare yourself.
Yeah, hey, you exactly where are you lined up? Yeah, you can't do that.
Now I think you get off this one quicker than the other pull you did.
Oh yeah, the thing.
You're moving.
Heck yeah, I got flagged for my fair share of false starts, but I'll be honest with you, it's worth it because if you can get that half a second going ahead of the defense, that's a game changer. Like you can, you can have a bigger, stronger guy on lined up against you, or a quicker linebacker that you're trying to chase down. But if you are going right when Josh says the H in Hut, say
yeah,
that's
you're
when
off.
You're going. Yeah. It's worth it more than it's not. I'll say it like that.
Now you're trying to cut this outside backer here.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that, guys. Like he's got to come from here and get out here before this guy can just run downhill at it. I mean, that's not an easy task.
Oh no, it's not. That's why this is a highlight, because it works out nicely. Whoop.
Beautiful cut block.
And Favorite thing about that play is I remember just looking up and Josh running off of my right side, and
They call you out too.
heck yeah, which
There.
that's why it's on the highlight right there. I don't usually when they're calling my name, it's not for something fun, but hell yeah,
It is this
not
time,
this
and this
play.
guy is eating grass right now with you. And so here, this is where you say you see Nesbitt just out of your peripheral.
Yep, I'm popping up trying to get back up, and I see them just take off. Ooh. Nothing's better than that as an offensive lineman. When you know, all right, I made the block, and you can see running back or quarterback, whatever happens, it just so often you make a block and you can't see the direct impact that it has on the play, or you don't know
Mm.
while you're on the field. But every so often, the stars will just align, and you can. It makes you feel good inside.
And this was one of them. Let's see it one more time.
Yeah, you'll
Uh,
notice. You'll
and
notice, yeah, that's pulling across from the far side all the way to the hash mark is where the actual block comes in, and that's the big thing I was talking about. Speed of the game. You're not running to where that linebacker is, or like a few feet to the left. You got to know this is where that linebacker is going to end up based on where he started. So that's where I got to be, and yeah. So often you can make like you make good enough blocks, or you do your best, but the linebacker is just flowing too quick or something. But every so often the stars will just align, and you and you can eat. Oh, it's nice.
yep. Joe was cooking on this one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so it was there any yeah, you had mentioned some of the players that you had played. Was there any you wanted to shout out, or is there any that you're still in contact with?
Oh yeah, which I actually did want to shout out a few people. I got a group text with some of my guys, Jim Henry, Tyler Morgan, Phil Smith. Those are some of my closest friends from the team, and love them, and uh, it's it's a fun environment because it's you have friends you meet from all different areas, but the friends you make via the team, it's just a little, I don't want to say it's deeper and more meaningful, but it means a little something else because you've gone through a shared experience. Like I know these guys, these are the same guys that were you know knocking heads with me back in 2008 and 2009. These are the people I worked and fought and bled with, and it's great when you make that connection and find a good group of guys that you can keep talking with. So yeah, I got nothing but love for them. So shout out Phil, Tyler, Jim, and also the OL07, Clyde Yandell, Nick Clater. Those are a lot of good guys, and there's a ton. I could name 97 others that are just as great people, but don't have the time to do all that. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to those guys.
It's interesting you say 97 because as I count, that's how many people we have on scholarship right now. There's some weird COVID stuff that lets you stretch above 89. I did have someone while, I do premieres. Oops, that's going to be loud. I do premieres for these videos. So people, there's like a live chat. And one thing that was asked is like, you ran wind sprints, and it's kind of like, man, this stinks. But do you feel like you out conditioned opponents, like you kind of outlasted them?
Yeah. There was definitely a few games like the one that always springs to mind is Florida State in 2009 in Tallahassee. That was the rain delay game, and by the end of it, I want to say we had a 10-minute drive in the third quarter. It was and it was brutal. Like normally I'll be tired coming off the field. That was one of the first times where, like, I was physically wondering if I could walk back out onto the field when we got off.
Man.
But having gone through all that, when you run out the next time, you just see the defense deflate. Like they're not ready for it, and they're not ready for the tempo at which we run. So on that end, I will say we were definitely more conditioned, and the way that we ran the game was very old school. It's not, I know some modern offenses will hurry up to keep the defense tired, but the triple option, that's the standard model. We're going to get out, huddle, break, get out, and just beat the defense down. Now, that being said, I think most of that came from practice, like practicing the inside drill and team drill at the end of practice. I don't think them wind sprints did a damn thing. Be
I'm
honest
not
with
going to
you.
get you to admit those wind
Yeah.
sprints helped significantly. That's
Yeah.
all right. Um, Also, like, I think just the way some of these players were built. Now, I'm bringing this up because I might know I'm going to have to cut this into what I've recorded earlier. But you talk about the strength of Nesbitt and Dwyer. Like, those guys just. They look like they all squatted about 480 or 500.
Oh yeah, well they were physical phenoms, man. I can't remember their numbers right off the jump. I'm sure Dwyer was close to 500 because the man Jonathan Dwyer and Derek Morgan, both of them had glutes for days, and they were able to generate so much force out of that. Like the worst thing you ever wanted to see. We used to do pass protection drills where we would work on switching, which is where a defensive end and a defensive tackle will perform a twist to get at you. And the worst thing you ever wanted to see as a guard is that defensive tackle take a step back to loop out, and you got about a second to turn, and you got Derek Morgan driving down at you with all that leg drive, and you do what you can, but not much you can do with that freight train's that freight train's
Yeah,
coming at
which
you.
I didn't think about that. You know, we had a lot of talent on the defensive line at that time with like Michael Johnson and Derek Morgan and these and TJ Barnes. Like
It
I'm
was
sure
unreal.
so
Yeah.
you were going good on good with those guys, right?
Yep. Which we scaled back the good on good the further into the season you go, but yeah, we had especially in '08, we had our interior guys were Vance Walker and Daryl Richardson, who were both monsters. Daryl was a bad man. He was I want to say he was a fifth year senior when I was a sophomore, and yeah, I learned a lot going up against him. And Vance Walker, that man's just a freak. That man's a monster, and he's won this. I want to say he won a Super Bowl with Denver. Or I know he has a Super Bowl ring to flex, but yeah, you got him. Those two on the interior, along with TJ coming up, being young, and the defensive ends. You got Derek Morgan, Michael Johnson, Michael Roberson, and then we had floaters that would pop up either on the interior or at end, like Elris and Yabe, and just I'm trying to remember all the names now because geez, they hit me so hard it knocked some of the names out.
Yeah, yeah, I believe it.
But
Uh,
it was unreal how talented they were, and physically the '08 defense was just physically unreal. What we had on the field between them and you don't hear his name called up too much. But we had an outside linebacker, Brad Jefferson, who that man's the most physically dominant human being I think I've ever seen. We were in the basketball gym at the CRC, and that man jumps up and dunks, and I'm standing flat, and I can see the bottom of his foot, the bottom of his shoe. He's jumped up that high; it's like eye level, and that's just unreal to look at, like some of the talent that we had on those teams.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of makes sense because I think there was several games, and you can speak to this, that Tech just dominated their opponent physically. Like they just beat them into the ground a little bit. Like some of those Clemson games, I'm thinking probably even that Florida
Mm-hmm.
State game you were talking about. It was just getting out physical. You know.
Yep. And that was largely our MO because that happened several games. Like Mississippi State '09 was a good one because that was again a big seesaw battle. Their offense was doing well, but with our conditioning and the way that we ran the system, we were just able to grind them down to where their defense was just beaten to a pulp by the end of the game. and their offense wasn't able. Our defense was able to shut down their offense enough to outscore them, and that was the exact same deal at Florida State in '09, and there was a few that it worked the opposite way because honestly, we offensively we didn't dominate against Gardner Webb, but the defense deserves a hell of a hell of an attaboy for that game because
Mm.
we did not put them in good situations, but the defense just kept coming out and physically dominating Gardner Webb, and that's how we won that game. Gardner Webb's getting ready to tee up a last second field goal, and Derek Morgan just says, "No, I am the bigger, stronger man here," and he runs he runs the guard back into the kicker, and we're able to get out of that game. So yeah, there was definitely sometimes, and there were definitely sometimes on the opposite end of the spectrum where we weren't the bigger physical team, or we weren't the bigger, faster team, but we were more physical, and we're going to grind you out, and that sort of thing is what I'd compare the Georgia '08 game to, because I mean, yeah, we're not out bigging Georgia because yeah, they've got big, strong guys out there, but we're gonna hit them. We're gonna hit them for a full 60 minutes, and by the end of it, I mean, you saw them; they weren't ready for it in the second half, and that's what made those teams so special. Is that when we can out physical you, but if we are not in a position where we have the physical advantage, we're gonna keep hitting you until we wear you down, and that was one of the better, or that's the mo I liked out of those teams really well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I guess to wrap up this portion of the video, that we just released the ACC schedule. Um, kind of talk looking in. I want to get your opinion on next season. Like, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm excited because I think the way the schedule sets up for us, it's very even, and I think we have an opportunity to get rolling in the first few games this year a little bit more than we had in years prior. It seemed like we just got beaten up there at the beginning of the season,
Yes.
so I think that's going to help us a lot. I also love the strength of schedule. Like, I would like to ultimately get back to scheduling like three either out of conference or higher end G5 schools like we had with UCF last year. But this year I'm okay. We've got Old Miss and UGA are our big ones, and then I think it's South Carolina State and
Yes.
Bowling Green. Yep.
Hmm.
So for this team, for a first year coach, I think that plays to our advantage, and I think a lot of it is going to depend on how we start and how we progress out of the first quarter of the season. Because on the team, you're not thinking, oh, we're 1-5 or whatever. If things start out bad, you're not thinking about that. But it does play into the psychology of it if you get to halfway through the season and you're at least competitive. If you're in the past, I would have accepted, a 500 start to the season would have been okay. But this season, I feel like we are in a position where we could be 4-2, 5-1 going into the halfway point of the season, and mentally having that monkey off your back, knowing, all right, we are looking better and we are improving. It helps a whole lot in the back end of the season because you do start thinking, if you have a bad start and you are, 2-4 at the halfway point, every game suddenly becomes, oh, okay, we've got to win, and you're more worried about not losing, or it does get into your head that, all right, we have to do this, that, and the other to become competitive again. Whereas if you're doing well, you're not worried about losing. You are just uh, you're more in it, and you are more focused on just doing the job in front of you rather than worrying about what your whole record is, or worrying about, if this doesn't work out, then we're not going to, go bowling, or if this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, whatever. It, I think it'll line up great for us. And on a side note, I am super excited about that trip to Oxford. I'm thinking about making a trip out to the Grove,
Oh
and
man.
being there for
You'll
that
have
one.
to, maybe me, you, and Sea Dog can all ride together.
Ooh, hell yeah. Be down for that because I'm trying to talk my wife into it, but I don't know if I don't know how open she is to it. So yeah, that might be a good bros trip.
Yeah,
We can all get out there because and especially how Ole Miss ended the season this past year. I'm not. I mean, they're a good team, but I'm not. I'm not as apprehensive about that game as I was this time last year with Ole Miss coming in.
for sure.
Mhm. You'd expect a D1 quarterback to look. The thing about Dwyer was strong, but Dwyer, the way his body is composed, he is like 60% legs, and
Yeah.
and of that, his ass takes up about I'd say at least a third of his body size. And the reason he was such a good runner is he was able to generate so much force
Mm.
using his legs and his glutes. He would just run through people because he was an insanely strong runner, but he was also heavy. Dude ran at I want to say 225, 230 at times while he was at Tech. So I remember I think it was Virginia 2009 is where he breaks away. He's one on one with a free safety, and he just lowers the shoulder and pancakes the free safety on the way to another. I want to say he got another 15 yards, which is it was unreal how strong he was.
Which
And
pancakes by the
a running
running
back,
back, usually called trucking. you
yeah.
just you just ran them flat
Mhm.
over. That's awesome, man. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this, switching gears a little bit. What coaches were you really close with?
My main ones were Coach D. I was really tight with him my freshman year at Tech. Uh, Under Johnson, I was pretty close with Coach Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Spencer was there were two offensive line coach. Seawalk took the interior, and Spencer was the tackles, but they really covered both between the two of them, and I was really close with him. And really loved. He wasn't a coach necessarily, but Demo was
Derek
great.
Moore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek Moore. He was an awesome inspirational speaker, and uh, the way Gailey had things set up, Gailey wouldn't do the pregame speech. He would have Derek or he would have Demo do it.
Mm,
And those pregame speeches, man, you'd be ready to walk through fire after that. All right, I'm ready to go. And you can look them up on YouTube. Find some old Demo pep talks, and man, it'll get in you.
yeah. Oh yeah. I think I played it before the last live show. It might be somewhat in the intro of this video. We'll see. Um, uh, Tell me about your most memorable win. So we just looked at the 2008. Beating Georgia in their house. Which ones stick out to you?
Which Georgia '08 was a great one, just because coming from Cartersville, the thing I hated most to hear was so many people said, "Well, we'll cheer for you every week except when you play Georgia." I thought, nope, screw you, don't cheer for me if that's the way you want to do it. So
Right.
winning that game was great. Um, but right up there with it was Wake Forest in 2009 because a lot of people don't remember that game. That was the trap game. We were ranked number 10. Wake Forest had an up and down season, but they played a hell of a game, and we ended up winning that game in overtime, which was insane. Um, Other two, I believe FSU in 2008 when we were at home. Cooper Taylor coming up with the fumble recovery in the end zone, and that
Mm,
was the first time I'd seen the field stormed, which
yeah.
was so fun. You just look around and it's just a sea of people out there on the field with you. So that was great. Shoot, and Florida State in 2009, going out to Tallahassee and dealing with I think we had a 2-hour rain delay after the first quarter, but then just a slobber knocker of a match. And I think we were just shy of 50 points that game. we scored over 50 at least once while I was there,
Mm.
because we got over 50 and we got over 500 yards rushing a couple of times. And those were those were always the games I tried to look
On
at.
your shoulders and the men up front around you, hitting the blocks.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, we had a good game plan for those games. Yeah.
What about the 2009 ACC championship? What was that like? I'm sure that was special.
Oh, it was great. And honestly, that game's it's kind of a blur, because I remember having a pretty good game, but it was very seesaw, and I remember being scared to death whenever CJ Spiller would touch the ball. That dude was greased lightning.
I think he ran a sub 4.4. I think a 4.38 or something.
Yep. I would absolutely believe it, because I mean we had good defensive backs. We had guys like Mario Butler and Morgan Burnett playing in the back, and you'd see fast guys like that still not be able to catch just a speed demon like Spiller. So that
couldn't get the angle on him.
Mm-mm. Well, yeah, and well, shoot, sometimes he could just outrun the angle, which is that's when you know you're dealing with somebody very scary.
I think they actually had 3 people that ran sub 4.4s. There was a guy named Ford, Spieler, and they had another one that was also really fast. I think a wide receiver.
Jacoby Ford, or
that might be it.
Talking about. But yeah, that was an unreal game, and I remember the end of it actually a lot clearer than I remember the game, because that was all of a sudden we're conference champions. They bring out the stage, and I got interviewed by some rando reporter with a microphone. I probably sounded like an idiot.
We need to find that.
Full of orange. Yeah, like I can't wait to go to Miami, but it was wonderful. And they actually brought the trophy into the locker room after the ceremony, so I actually got to hold it and see it. And that was the biggest high after a game, knowing that we won. We're going to a New Year's Six bowl. Going to Miami. Oh,
yeah. Did y'all get rings for that, ACC championship rings?
We did.
Do you have it?
I don't have it on me. I thought about it, because most of my rings and my Letterman jacket are back up at my parents' house for safekeeping. Make sure I don't lose them. But
understood.
Yeah, but maybe next call-in show, I'll go up and grab them.
That'd be awesome. So with that, I guess that kind of gets us into like NCAA regulations. That's what we talked about. We did have a viewer that wanted to know if you got any money from the NCAA 14 video game class action.
You mentioned it. I did actually get some of that. I don't know, they had a system by which they distributed money, and I think it was based off of if you were on the cover, or how much you were in the game. So that I ended up getting just under $1,000, or right at $1,000, which at the time it was great, because I was just I was about 4 or 5 years removed from playing, and yeah, it was nice. I had to check that box on my taxes that I had a court settlement that year.
That's awesome. How do you feel about them taking our 2009 quote-unquote ACC title away over giving Damaris Thomas a tracksuit?
I think it's just some silly bullshit, to be honest with you. Oh, and sorry, didn't mean to swear.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You do you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like I get what the ACC's trying to do, but you don't take away championships. Like I was there, I won it.
Yeah,
we won it. Like, yeah, there's I've still got my ring. I know the trophy's still in the Edge Center somewhere. I know they didn't give it back, so
good on them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I thought that was kind of a clown show how the NCAA and the ACC handled it. If you want to sanction, come up with something better. That don't go back and take something away that we already have.
Well, over that, I mean, you've probably heard me say, like, North Carolina cheated for a decade. They gave kids grades for classes they never attended. And
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna take our ACC title away for that? Come on.
Yeah, for $200 worth of stuff, and that's it. It would be nothing compared to the NIL deals we're currently seeing in college. This would be a pittance.
Well, it would be nothing compared to what happened at other programs the whole time that didn't get dinged. But I know we've been going on a while. The last thing I want to ask you, we had prepped it on the live show, toughest blocking matchups that you had throughout your career.
Ooh, all right. Well, I got a surprise answer for you here, and
Okay.
might not expect it. T.J. Barnes,
Okay, a tech guy.
that guy. Yeah, believe it or not, I was I first started in 2008, and TJ was a freshman, and they decided to redshirt him, so he was going to be on the scout team. And for whatever reason, TJ did not like me. I don't. Somebody told him that I talked shit about his girlfriend or something, or that I kicked his dog. Somehow he was mad at me.
Someone did you dirty.
Yeah. I would love to know who did that, because that 360-pound man made my life a living hell for 3 days a week. I'd be going out and, those 20 minutes of inside drill, I got TJ Barnes as a 3 technique every day. And dude was massive and ran like a 5 flat 40, or he might have been quicker than that. So,
ooh, which he's
yeah.
what, 6'7", 360?
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I looked him up. Yeah, he was 6'7", 360 or 350 something.
A monstrous guy. Stopped playing in the NFL, I think last year. It may have
He was
been
playing for the Chiefs, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. I know he was with the Chiefs and the Jaguars at some point. I can't remember where he finished. But yeah, now he's going back to the. I don't know if it's the not Arena League, but the USFL.
Mm.
I think he's going back to that. So God bless those guys in the USFL. I wouldn't want to see him lining up across from me. But he
what do you do with that guy like that? I mean,
basically, you're hitting your head up against a wall, and that's what you got to do. You go out, you practice your technique, and you know that eventually you're going to get right. And that having somebody to go up against that was that intense and that had that size and speed really helped me develop as a player, because that's what you're seeing on Saturdays. You're not seeing you're not seeing anybody smaller than that. And if
so he made you better. That sounds like. I guess maybe you didn't get done dirty because him coming at you made you a better lineman. It sounded like.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that at the time. Oh man, I developed a drinking habit. I hit TJ Barnes so much. Like we would finish up Thursday practice, I'd hang it up, and I would immediately go to. I had a buddy that was an SAE, and I would go straight to the SAE house and say, I've got to blow off some steam this week.
Yeah.
But that was great. But as far as actual opponents, BJ Raji was a beast from Boston College. Ron Brace was the other guy on the other side of the line. Then there were also linebackers. I tried to Google his name. I couldn't find his name. There was a middle linebacker from Miami in 2009 that man hit me so hard I couldn't move my arm for a full play. Like, it took me a full play to recover,
man,
from that smack. And yeah, I'd say there was a lot back then, but I'd definitely say TJ was
the toughest.
TJ was the toughest. Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have a Super Bowl ring? Was he with the Chiefs when they won a Super Bowl?
I think he might have been, because actually I think he was. I'd have to go back and Google it to be sure, but looking back at it, though, that 08 and 09 team, if you look at the players that were on that roster, I want to say there's 5 Super Bowl champions out of that. I think we got Dwyer, Stephen Hill.
Burnett was with Green Bay, wasn't he?
Yep, Morgan Burnett. And I want to say there were too much. And then you got Pro Bowlers that were on those teams. It was unreal.
Yeah.
how much talent was concentrated at Tech for a little while.
When was Shaq Mason there? He was after you
He was
guys.
he was a decent amount after because
Yeah.
I never met Shaq at Tech, but immediately after I graduated Georgia State, I got a little side job working security at a bar up in Buckhead, and one night, all of a sudden, this kind of big heavyset dude walks in. He's like, "You're Joseph Gilbert." I'm like, yeah, yes, I am. You know, oh, hey, I'm Shaq. I'm like, oh snap, you're Shaq Mason. So that was a very cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time I had known cool guy, like nice down to earth fellow. He'll just come up and talk with you. So
Has a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots, right?
I think he's got a few. With the
He's got
Patriots.
2, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won a lot in the day.
Mhm.
Well, man, I know it's getting late. I absolutely appreciate you coming on, man. This is awesome. I think we all learned a lot from you, and I'm sure we'll do it again. We'll probably make you a regular guest on the Georgia Tech live show as well.
Oh, hell yeah. I'd love to do it because I love talking Tech football. I really appreciate you having me on. This is actually the first time since I was playing that I've had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the good old days. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the content you're putting out because for a long time, if you wanted Tech content, you had to look far afield to find somebody. But now having Sea Dog, having Bryce Kuhn over on the Crowded booth, it has been a breath of fresh air. So I'll help out any way I can.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, so if you want us to keep doing stuff like this, there's a PayPal link in the description. We have merchandise now that just hit. You can purchase and give us a like and subscribe as well. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Go Jackets.